What's up guys, welcome to another video on the personal GU Patrol. Look how bloody good it looks out here in the sun. So, last Tuesday, right, I came to work, Rex wasn't here for the morning, I looked around, I had about a million other things to do, I was so far behind on work, but I thought, screw it, if I don't make time to get this thing sorted and just do it, well then it's just gonna be another one of my cars that sits down in the paddock for years that never gets touched. And I didn't want it to be that, so I thought, screw it. You know, we know it's got this fuel pressure issue. We've got a spare fuel pump. I've got the morning here on my own. I just thought I'm just gonna get it in the shed, get this thing sorted out, pull the gas out, starting to get it ready for road, rego, ready to go. So that was on a Tuesday. The intention was to spend just the morning getting that sorted, and that turned into what would ensue a complete week of working on this thing, chasing down things. Now, I had originally filmed as I went. I filmed about 4 episodes, I think, of what I did to this car. I can't do it. It was like 4 episodes where just not a whole lot happened. I suppose a whole lot happened, but when you break it down into 4 episodes, it didn't need to happen. So I'm making this one, I'm gonna condense this all down. So let's have a look at how this all went. So I should preface this by saying that in the meantime, since the last episode and when I started working on this thing on Tuesday, there are a few new developments made. So Darcy, who you would have seen around quite a bit, he's a bit of a patrol nut, very patrol knowledgeable, knows a lot about patrols. He was here one day and we sort of just took the time to have a look around this thing, popped up all of the kick panels and stuff like that and had a look under the carpet because, you know, I talked about how the front carpet, it was wet, still damp, it kept being damp, and we sort of just come to the conclusion that we did think that this thing had either been in a flood underwater or at least been drowned out four-wheel driving and stuff before. So it started a big thing there where I didn't know whether it had been drowned and there was a BCM issue, and you know, I had to get this fuel pump issue sorted so that I could test all that. So righto guys, so just explaining going down to get the patrol running, we're going to put a brand new Raceworks 340 LPH fuel pump in this thing to hopefully knock these fuel pressure issues on the head. Righto, so while I just let that get some charge in it, I'll go through a few things with you guys. So when I bought this car, when I purchased it, with all the floods that happened at the start of this year, I was always worried that it may have been underwater, especially with the problems that it was having. It was sort of reminiscent of a car that may have gone under in a flood. And it was something that I was always a little bit worried about, not to mention that the little ashtray that goes in the center console, when I pulled it out, when I got it, it actually had water in it. So yeah, there are a few things that I was a bit worried about there. As you guys saw from the last episode, I was then worried about the fact that the key, the central locking on the key didn't work, and none of the speakers worked. Like literally none of the speakers worked. Head unit works, I can connect to it, I can put CDs in it, it will play music. Like the head unit will play through the song, but no sound. And I thought, what are the chances that all speakers shut themselves at the same time? Unless it went under in a flood and killed all the speakers. But that's what I started to think, maybe it's a BCM, it's a body control module thing. And that's why those things aren't working. So that was what got me under the thought. The other thing was, obviously, when I got it, this kick panel was already pulled off, which means, you know, you'd think that someone was in there finding the BCM that's in there. Now, Darcy came and sort of helped me out quite a bit with a few things. Number one, this key, obviously I've never owned or even driven a patrol this new, and I thought that maybe this is just a newer patrol key for a newer patrol. But this is definitely not a patrol key. It's no kind of standard patrol key. A quick look like online on eBay and stuff like that, it's pretty obvious that this is just an aftermarket replacement cheap key off eBay. So potentially this has never actually been coded to the BCM, and that potentially is the reason that it doesn't unlock the doors, which that makes a fair bit of sense. So there's that. Darcy, we also pulled off, because like I said, under this floor, oh, there's a Spidey. Hello, Mr. Spider-Friend. Anyway, under this floor has always been quite wet, and the passenger side floor has always been quite wet. And as you can see, we pulled up all of the sill panels and you can see it's quite muddy. Like it does look like it's been underwater. We did the back seats as well, had a look under there. Same thing, like it looks like it's been underwater, that's mud. Someone's done a very good job of cleaning it up. It's still very clean, but it definitely looks like it's been potentially underwater. Now the carpet and the underlay and stuff back here, it's not wet. It's only wet up the front. And the other thing we realized, I can't show you where it is, but in the backs there, on the back floor, which is just a little bit higher than the regular floor, that's not muddy. So even if it's been under, it's only been up to sort of just just up to here really, and doesn't potentially look like it's been under in a flood or something, but potentially it's been underwater at Glasshouse or something like that. You know, it's a 4-wheel drive. I've had patrols that I've drowned at Glasshouse heaps of times, so it's definitely a possibility that it's just been under enough to kill the speakers, do a bit of damage. Nothing that I'm worried about. At this stage, my plan is basically to, when we finally have some good weather, literally pull the entire interior out of this car, carpet everything, let it dry out properly, clean up inside under the floor properly with everything out, and just give it all a really, really good clean, give the carpet a really good clean while it's out, and then put it all back together like sort of fresh. Like I said to you guys when I bought this thing, sort of my dream car in a sense. When I do things to this car, I want them done properly, because I have no intentions of moving this car on really. It is possible that the body control module is fine and that these other problems are just coincidentally other things. The other thing that Darcy said, that he reckons that the speakers have nothing to do with the body control module. They're their own thing. So that is all potentially a possibility, or it could be something to do with the head unit just not outputting any signal to the speakers. There's a few things that I need to test in here, but basically it comes down to the fact that it may not be a body control module issue. In order to test this properly, the best way that I can find to eliminate it, completely test it, confirm it, is the Tiptronic. So the RE5 Tiptronic, it runs through the BCM. So if the Tiptronic doesn't work, we can be pretty confident that there's an issue with this BCM. I'd be pretty happy to say that that's a BCM issue if it doesn't work. But if the Tiptronic does work, well then I'm pretty happy to say that obviously the BCM's okay and we've got issues elsewhere. And that would be ideal, because although getting a BCM I don't think is going to be that hard, trying to figure out how to actually code it and integrate it and find someone who can do that, that's going to be a pain in the ass. So in order to test the Tiptronic, I need to get this thing running properly so that I can actually take it for a decent drive. And that's what brings us to today, making sure getting this thing running on petrol, so that I can actually test this theory and start moving forward with whatever's wrong with this thing and start fixing it. So the other thing is obviously this carpet is wet, like under here is wet, it keeps staying wet, which to me obviously screams that there is an issue with water leaking, which we talked about. So I need to, my idea was that when I pull all the interior out, start looking for whatever's leaking with everything out of there so that I can easily see it hopefully and see what's going on. I did have a suggestion in the last video in the comments that it could be a heater core under the dash, which does actually sort of make a bit of sense as to why it would only be sort of at the front that's wet. So that's another thing I'll have to check. So, you know, there's been just a bit of help, bit of development, a few new things come to light that I want to check, fault find, and start moving towards just getting this thing right so that I can actually use it and have it. So that's the plan. Anyway, it's enough babbling. You're fully up to speed. We'll get this thing up in the shed and start pulling this stuff apart. Hopefully we can get it started with what little LPG we've got left. But like, because it's been wet in here for so long and it's sitting, it is starting to get moldy and things like that. So I really got to make moves on it. It's really stressing me out that it's just sitting here. Righto guys, so this is the first time I've actually looked underneath this car, period, since I got it. Hasn't been on a hoist because we haven't had a spare one, but it's pretty obvious that it's had a bit of either a very big off-road expedition and ended up under some water, or it's definitely gone under in a flood, at least to, you know, a certain degree, a certain point. So anyway, regardless, this looks like the exact same fuel tank setup as the one that was in that GQ that we put the 6L80 LS into. So I'll sort of have a bit of an idea of how it's going to work and how we get it out. So yeah, I guess first thing I'll do is probably get the gurney under here and give this a big wash up, because it's pretty gross. But I don't know, I might do the fuel pump first actually. As gross as it's going to be, I don't want to be walking around in muddy slop on the ground, and I don't have time to like wash it out and then wait for it. So I'll give it a wash last thing before I take it off the hoist so that it is clean under here, but that way I won't be walking around in it. But yeah, it's a fair bit gross under here, but it's, as far as the actual condition of the car though, it's all looking pretty good. It all looks quite good. Like the regular rust spots, bottom of the rad support and everything else, the rad support panel and that, like everything's pretty well rust free. Nothing rearing its ugly head under here, so apart from just being filthy and gross. So we've got the tank out, we've got the fuel pump changed over. I then decided to drain the tank, and there was sure enough plenty of water mixed in with the petrol. So it definitely had to be underwater enough to at least get the fuel tank full of water. Not the greatest sign to start out with, but also a pretty good indication that we were on the right track with the fuel pump. Rightio guys, I finally got the filter out. I ended up just having to cut it out because the hoses were that grown to it. I literally couldn't get the hoses off it, but it's just absolutely cooked. I honestly don't think this has ever been changed. I really don't. I think this has been in this car since it was purchased, probably. So anyway, that's probably not going to get away with just cleaning this out and chucking it back in. So I got to go to the servo anyway to get fuel. So it's a fairly generic filter. Hopefully there's one at the servo that I can grab. So I'm going to take it with me, try and go in from the servo, come back, new lines to the filter from where I had to cut it out. Hopefully a new filter, some fresh fuel. And just looking at the evidence, I think we should be on our way. Righto guys, so the servo did not have any kind of filter that would work at all. Every single filter the servo had was like an inverted seat thread type fitting. So I ended up just doing a full clean out of the old filter, and honestly, it is one of the worst I've ever seen in my life. I cleaned it out with brake clean like 4 times. And then I was like, well, I'm gonna use a lot of brake clean doing this. So I came in and I just started cleaning it with petrol. And this is the drum that I was tipping all the petrol in. Like that's what it did look like. This is what it looks like after cleaning out the filter about 20, maybe 30 times. And then one more brake clean in between, and then a few more petrol after that. So obviously, needless to say, I'm going to order a brand new filter, but I really want to put a filter back in it just so I can confirm whether this fixes our fuel pressure issue, because if it does, well then I'm happy to start pulling all the LPG stuff out, but I need to confirm that this is actually going to fix the problem before I start pulling that out. Because like I said, if not, I need the LPG to move it around. So, moment of truth, guys.
Yeah, we've got about
50.
52-ish, 53.
Yeehaw. That should be enough for it to actually run properly. I don't know what it's meant to be running, but obviously I'm sure that filter's still not doing it any favors, but that's obviously going to be a lot better than 10 PSI to run it on petrol. Woohoo! I'd say those injectors are pretty upset considering what came out of that filter. And obviously with it being on LPG, I'm assuming that whoever owned it just ran the thing on LPG all the time. So anyway. Yeehaw. All right, moment of truth. Let's check the Tiptronic.
Is there a gear indicator anywhere?
Yeah. Oop. Manual. It reckons it's working.
Just accelerate a bit. Second gear. And the dash does work.
There you go.
There you go.
Righto guys, so a great result. It would appear that the BCM's fine for the most part. Doesn't appear to be anything wrong with the BCM if the Tiptronic is working, which it is. So ordering currently a complete service kit for the RE5. All of the fluids I need to do, transfer case, diffs, we'll service pretty much everything under the car because of obviously what's going on with it. Engine, filter, oil, everything else. So that'll all get serviced. I've ordered a new alternator. You can hear the alternator in this thing's cooked. It may have been underwater for all I know as well. So anyway. Righto guys, just moving on to fixing a few other issues with the car. Had to fix the engine loom from where the gas system was piggybacked from the ECU. Fix quite a bit of the wiring here, quite a bit of other things that just needed general seeing to and general maintenance. So with the loom all fixed up, all wrapped up, we had the thing running, confirmed that everything worked properly. The new alternator had arrived. We swapped the alternator out, put the new alternator on, fixed a lot of the noise. We then gave it a complete underbody wash that took hours to get all the mud out, but a huge wash, was very satisfying, and then a big tub on the outside of it as well, clean it up properly.
Why would you want a turbo LS thing when you can have TB48?
Yeah, TB, yeah! With a few things fixed up, it was then time to move on to actually cleaning up this interior and trying to figure out where the water's coming in from. So back in the shed it went, started pulling the interior out, and really started making moves of figuring this out. Pretty sure we figured out what's going on with the water situation and the leaking water. So I'm pretty sure I explained in the last episode, but if I didn't, I cannot explain enough. Whoever did the gas install on this thing, absolute, cannot believe that they have a job. I would really like to meet them and stick a broom up their ass. Literally just the worst. Anyway, they've absolutely hacked. There's a wiring grommet, right, in the firewall. Down here, underneath the brake booster. Woo, Yeah, you can see it right down there. I still need to do a lot of cleaning in this corner. It's filthy because this is where all the gas stuff was. There's a grommet right down there, right? That grommet there, and it's been absolutely hacked up. Disgusting, huge holes, all to take about 3 wires for the gas system. And then there's another grommet in the exact same spot over this side that is not quite as bad, but still completely hacked up. You know, disgustingly hacked up. There's no reason to hack up a grommet like that. Anyway, just annoying stuff. And anyway, the cow panel, right? The cow panel, well, it's probably easier to show you on this side, so I'm holding it with my left hand. Let me adjust the GoPro. So the cowl panel here has the vents for water and air, and actually the water just goes into there and just literally dumps out of this hole, which comes straight down over this bonnet hinge and just fills up both these sides, right behind the wheel well, right where those grommets are. And I'll here have a little bit of a demonstration. Water right into the cowl panel. Whoop. And you can see where that's coming down, right? And you can see where it's just filling up that hole right there behind the wheel well where that grommet is. And we're pretty sure that that is just allowing water to sit, and it is just leaking into the cabin from there, and that's why it's all wet underneath the front floor there. That's the most obvious, looks like, scenario that's going on. It doesn't appear to be any obvious things coming from the windscreen. The windscreen install doesn't look that great, particularly from the inside, but the A-pillar trims have this like foam wool stuff on the underside of them, and they're completely dry. So like you'd think if it was getting in through this little gap here, you'd expect those to be wet, but especially considering that a lot of this water was fresh over the last 2 days where I've been washing this out. So yeah, looks like the most obvious thing is just those grommets. So not quite sure how we're going to fix that yet. Might just have to pump them full of silicon, but we'll figure out a way. But we're pretty sure that's pretty much it. So we'll let everything dry out. I'll leave that carpet out, then sort of dry it out as best I can. Just put the whole car in rice. But anyway, there's not much else we can do, but yeah, we'll sort that out. We'll get those grommets sealed up, and hopefully that's the end of that. Moving on to full service of all fluids for everything underneath the car. Gearbox got new fluids. It also got a new filter. Engine, new filter, new oil. We have new oil in the transfer case, as well as both the front and the rear diffs. So just a complete underbody service going on. New air filter, new fuel filter, new everything. Righto guys, so it ended up yesterday afternoon when I got back here. It was raining that hard that I didn't really bother filming anything because you wouldn't have been able to hear anything, but pushed through, I got through it all. Everything under the car is done now. Both diffs, transfer, engine, gearbox, and everything's greased up. I greased up all of the unis on the shaft and all of the slip joints in the shaft. Pumping grease into these unis. You could tell they hadn't been greased in eons. You can tell by the noise they make, like a heap of firecrackers going off. Insane. So I think the poor old girl's been a little bit neglected in her life, but not to worry, it's going to get looked after now. So everything under the car's done. I'm pretty happy with everything under the car now. All new oils, all new fluids everywhere. The front diff all looked brand new. That'll look like it was brand spanking new. It had just been done. Rear diff was a milkshake. So rear diff was definitely full of water. I gotta remember to put this breather on. That's one thing I forgot to do yesterday. Put the diff breather back on. So the rear diff breather actually just goes to this part of the chassis. So obviously if the thing had been under the water up to this level, it's pretty obvious that, you know, it's gonna get full of water, this diff. But the front was fine, and the front breathes right up into the engine bay somewhere, I believe. So it was all good. So I think it's been underwater obviously up to that point. You know, fuel tank, this diff, etc. But anyway, not to worry, it's all good now. All the breathers have been blown out, so we know all the breathers are good. Everything's sealed back up, all new oils, everything. So happy days. And today we've actually finally got what appears to be a little bit of good weather, which means I hopefully can get this freaking carpet outside and actually get it drying out properly. All right, breathers back on. Well, kept me awake last night, in fact, rather not. So there's that done. I bought some of this stuff to fix the grommets in the firewall, which I will do this morning as well. So we've got Fast Grab T-Rex Power, super adhesive, bonds anything to everything apparently. Figure that's got to work, right? So this morning I'll fill this in all the grommets. I'll get this carpet out in the sun, hopefully dry it out a fair bit. Then I've got some plans to go out at lunchtime, go get my new wheels. So I'll go get the new wheels at lunch. I've teed up a few other things in the area as well where I'm going, which were just sort of opportune moments, key moments to grab stuff. There's a bloke wrecking a patrol pretty close to where I'm going, and he's got a main tank with a Walbro 255 in it, so I thought I'd grab that. Oh, I've got the main tank here ready to go. I'm not going to install it until I know how exactly I'm going to set up the two tanks, but at least I've got a main tank then. May as well grab it while the opportunity presents itself. All right, guys, this just keeps getting better. So, pulled the passenger side door card off, grabbed some speakers that I know works that came out of a big bad Falcon Wags, some 6x9s and boxes, a couple of shorting clips, and we've got some sound. We've got some doofs, which means that it's just a speaker issue. We just got a heap of dead speakers. Doesn't appear to be anything more than that, which is freaking wicked. So, just gotta buy some premium audio speakers, replace all the speakers. Head unit still works, so how freaking cool. With that done, the rear carpet under the rear seats is a little bit damp as well still. So while we've got a good day, I'm gonna rip rear seats out, rip that rear section of carpet out, hopefully get it drying as well for this afternoon. And then yeah, hopefully this afternoon, start getting this all back together. But I did get both grommets pumped with as much silicone as possible, and I would like to test to make sure that we've stopped the water ingress before the the interior goes back together. Seems pointless to me chucking all the interior back in only to find out that we haven't fixed the water ingress yet and for it to get damp again. So we'll make sure that's sorted before that goes in. So here, guys, you get to start to see the patrol with all of the interior pulled out. I ended up pulling everything out, cleaning up all underneath the carpet, cleaning up the body, cleaned up the bottom of the carpet under the underlay. Basically just a huge big spring clean the whole thing out. The interior actually all went together and came apart very simple considering. I was very impressed with how easy it actually was to work inside the car there, and pulled the interior out and clean everything out under there. So these are the new wheels that I picked up, Mickey Thompson Classics with the fake beadlock rings. Wasn't too stoked on the fake beadlock rings. They were sort of just a means to an end and a cheap tyre that I needed. So I bought them at the time. Thought we'd polish them up and have a look, but yeah, originally I wanted to put Method 301s on this thing, but that's that. Started cleaning this interior up, was cleaning up really well. We also confirmed that we fixed the water ingress and that there was no more water getting in the car, so we were pretty happy to start chucking this interior back together. Oh guys, it's probably pretty hard to get on camera just how satisfying this process is, but goodness, it's so satisfying. It's been so much work, but goodness, it's satisfying, I gotta say. So I'm using on this just like a multi-purpose spray on things like the seat belts and some of the hard surfaces and stuff where there's some mold spores. There's a little bit of mold and stuff, so some multi-purpose surface spray, get the mold off. Then protectant over the, after I've done the surface spray, using the armor all protectant, and then on all the leather and stuff using this armor all protectant. And then on the carpet I'm actually using this turtle wax carpet and upholstery cleaning and stain remover. It's like a deodorizer and a shampoo as well. So like it's hard to get on camera, but it smells clean, doesn't smell damp or anything. Like the whole thing, it's freaking awesome. So just the seats to go, and yeah, like I said, I'll do the door cards when the new speakers arrive. No point in pulling the door cards apart twice. So when the speakers arrive, I'll pull the door cards apart, then put the new speakers in, clean them up at that time. All right, boys and girls, seats shampooed, back in. We are finally done. Like I said, not planning on putting the third row seats back in. They're going to stay out. That's the patrol tidied up. An immense amount of work, huge amount of work, but holy crap, am I glad now that it's done. It's freaking done. I've done it. Now I don't have to do it again. As long as I keep it tidy, won't have to do it again. Now we can start the modifications and everything else, and I'll order some speakers. So we'll tune back in, pick this video back up when we do the next thing, but it's not going to be today. So, all right, so what I found out is that I'm pretty sure that the dealerships and stuff like that have dipsticks to fit in the filler tube for the gearbox, but apparently these didn't come from factory with one. So, but you can buy them. So that might just be what I've got to do. Buy a dipstick for the transmission and wait for it to get here and basically top it up, make sure it's all good then. But for now, obviously we replaced the fluid that came out of it. So we'll have to assume that that'll be good enough for now, just until the dipstick arrives. So that's that. That means this can come out of the hoist bay and it's good to go. I'll work on getting some speakers. I'll work on getting them wheels polished up and stuff, getting some lights sorted and doing some more modifications. So this isn't much fun. That's new filter, new pump. We put a different relay in it. Still just immediately dropping pressure as soon as you give it any kind of fuel demand. Very strange, it's very odd. Righto, so the consensus at the moment is that there must be a pretty big fuel blockage in the fuel line somewhere. Righto guys, so after this little issue, we actually dropped the tank back out. We blew back out all of the fuel lines to try and make sure there was no blockages or nothing blocking any of the fuel lines. Blew through the fuel lines all backwards to try and just clear them all out and get it working. And then after that, it seemed to be fine. Took it for a drive and it seemed to be behaving fine. So although we hadn't come to a conclusion as to what was causing the issue, it seemed to have fixed it. I know, so seems to drive fine, drives nice, gearbox seems to shift fine. We've got our standard, very, very terrible Patrol death wobbles it, and it's sort of just over 80, 90k an hour they start and they get real bad at 100. So definitely something that needs to be sorted ASAP. Like I said, or like a lot of people know, the plan is for me to sort this out and then the missus is going to take it for the next couple of months. I need to sort out all those things so that she can drive it. Be the mum rig for a little while, the family car, so it's got to be all safe and sound. So sort out death wobbles. I think it's generally usually panhard bushes, I think is normally the main cause of that. So have a good look at that when I get it back on the hoist. But I mean, as far as the shifting and everything goes, seems to go fine. Got plenty of pepper. Stretch its legs. So it's alright if you power on through 100k an hour, but so there you have it guys, that is basically the Patrol up to where it is now. We're mostly sorted, it's on the road at the very least. There's a few things I've got to sort out, like I said. Got the new wheels here we've got to polish up. I've got speakers on the way, I've got a few other bits and bobs on the way to start doing some actual modifications and start having some fun with this car and getting it properly sorted the way that I want it sorted. But obviously after this week of working on this thing, getting it to this point, I really cannot afford any more time at the moment to spend on this car. I really need to start getting back into our work catch up of actual customer stuff. So for now it's just going to be sort of driven around. We'll iron out a lot of these issues as we go, but yeah, look forward to the next episodes where hopefully we're starting to actually do some modifications, fit some wheels up and have some fun with this thing. So thanks for watching guys, as always. Hope you're enjoying this car, Lord knows I am. But wait guys, there's more. So yesterday afternoon I thought, well, I'll take the Patrol home today and start driving it around, you know, just locally close to iron out all the issues. And I got halfway home and no fuel pressure again. So obviously this problem is not going away. It's rearing its ugly head again. Like I said, when we fixed it just before, we didn't come to any sort of conclusive understanding of what it is. And the way it's intermittent, comes and goes, and what it's doing, it really seems like it must be something electrical. And like they've just basically made an extension loom from the standard plug position at the back of the car to wire the new fuel pump hanger for the sub tank, and it just is a pretty dodgy looking wiring job from there back up to the pump hanger. So in order to eliminate another issue, like I said, at this stage we just don't have the time to be still spending time on this thing. I just need to pretty much get it running so I can start driving it a bit, and we can try and sort out that sub tank issue later on down the track when we do have time to actually play around with it. So for now, the best and easiest and quickest solution that I can see is to clean up our main tank that I got the other day. We'll clean this up, we'll pull the sub tank out altogether, we'll put our new pump in this tank, and we'll just install this tank, and this should all just basically plug straight up to what's there in factory position. And it's just one less thing, or you know, we're eliminating a few things out of the equation of potential issues. So hopefully this sorts that out and I can at least just start driving it, and later on when we've got time we'll have a bit more of an investigation into the sub tank issue and try and set it up the way I want to set it up. But for now I just need a fuel tank and a fuel pump and fuel pressure. That's what I need.